Greetings to my fellow peace blunderers, and today comes the big one. No exaggeration needed, no overhyping. Today I'm talking about the number one reason you can't improve your skill at chess or you're stuck at a certain rating. And as with many, number one reason for X and number one way to do Z, on the one hand, it's going to be stating the very obvious, but on the other hand, it is still extremely difficult to fix, hence this video. And I really hope that maybe at the beginning, you will be like, duh, but towards the end of this video, it's going to be a big eye-opener to you. And I really hope you're going to watch it till the end, because my thoughts is going to develop throughout this video more and more, so that only towards the end you will fully get the picture. And I'd like to start with what basically prompted me to make this video, and it was a very interesting game played in our community tournament 2 days ago. By the way, do join our Sunday weekly tournaments every Sunday, 5 p.m. UTC. If you don't have anything better to do on your Sunday afternoon or your Sunday evening, do join us. It's a lot of fun. Also follow me on Twitch because, of course, we're broadcasting everything. Anyway, so back to the position. I'm playing as black against a very lovely community member rated about 1,000. And we just played 10 moves each, and it's white to move. As we can see, the e5 pawn, as it stands, is hanging, and sometimes pawns are hanging, but they are defended tactically, right? You can take it, but there are repercussions, so maybe you shouldn't. This is not the case, however. The pawn is just straight away hanging with zero consequences for me, negative consequences. However, it's white to move, as I said, and there are a number of ways that white can stop this pawn from being captured for free. F4, bishop f4, rook e1, you could even take the knight on c6. 4 reasonable moves that are not hard to find at all, right? I think that you watching this video would have at least suggested one of those, right? However, next move happens by white and it's b4. And I just take the pawn. It was a free pawn. Now, fast forward a couple of moves later, some unrelated moves happen. And this is not the moment. This is the moment where my knight gets a delicious square on c4 and now is attacking a lot of things. This pawn is now hanging, and generally speaking, not only am I a pawn up, but I have this absolutely brilliant knight that is not very easy to get rid of. As we can see, white does not have a light squared bishop anymore. That would maybe challenge this knight. But this knight ain't gonna do it in the next couple of moves from this square. This knight even more so, because when you have the situation when the knights are located diagonally, one square in between them, it takes at least 3 more moves to challenge the other knight. So no way, my knight is just sitting there and enjoying life. And I won the game in the next 9 moves, and the end of the game is not relevant at all. What is relevant is how this game turned from equal to straight up losing. And the obvious answer is going to be the downfall started with the blundering of that e5 pawn. Because, yes, one pawn you can lose, but on top of that, there is the positional drawback of losing that pawn. My knight got to the e5 square, which it has no right to ever go to. As long as this pawn stays in place and is defended, like I say, f4, rook e1, whatever, my knight never gets to e5. Hence, it doesn't have as an easy path to the deadly c4, where my knight ended up. So when the pawn got blundered, it wasn't just about the pawn, it was about the strategic consequences as well, not just material. Now, let's ask ourselves a question. Having seen all that, why did white lose the game? And the simplest, the most honest, and the most correct answer is always going to be because of a blunder. Because of a completely unforced error. Blundering a pawn, a central pawn, right out of the opening, pretty much, move 11. And this is basically what kickstarted white's disaster. Did white lose a sweaty endgame in an 80-move match? No. Did white lose because of some exceedingly complicated tactic that only grandmasters would see? No. Did white lose because they made an inaccuracy in their opening preparation on move 23? No. White lost because essentially they blundered material for nothing. So yeah, that's why, surprise, surprise, you, my friend, are losing most of your games because of blunders. Because of blunders like this one. Completely unforced, mind you. There are different types of blunders, of course. There are some blunders that occur after some really complicated positions when you don't really have the time to assess everything and you miscalculate, but it can be forgiven. It can be. But a blunder like this, come on. And if you watching this, 1000 rated, 1500 rated, whatever rated, think to yourself, well, I definitely don't do that. I definitely don't blunder pawns for nothing on squares like e5. Do I need to check your latest games? At the same time, you may also go like, wow, indeed, very informative video, exclaim, hey, this guy just told me that I blunder a lot, and that's why I lose most of my games. Never realized that was happening to me. I get it. Bear with me, people. It's about to get better. To address both of these points that I just mentioned, I went ahead and I looked at some of my latest games, and I basically searched for two things. One, I wanted to look at whether this silly, unforced blundering is still a thing at my level. And I play at roughly above 2000 these days, and let's be real, I don't want to flex or anything, I'm not the flexing kind of person, but if we take all chess players in general, I say 2000 plus is a rating level that a lot of chess players would bite your arm off, right? We all have our different chess paths, but I am fully confident that, half of chess players at least would consider getting to 1500 quite an achievement. And it's amazing, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm always happy for everyone for their little achievements, and breaking thresholds is just absolutely brilliant. So I wanted to take a look at that. And thing number two I was looking for is, well, what are we supposed to do with the blunders? And what I found, I kid you not, was absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. If you guys have any illusions about chess rating systems and chess players, and about how players around 2000 are supposed to be masters of the universe and people who never make mistakes, you're about to get very disappointed. It took me no further than six of my latest games to find 4 inexplicable, absolutely shocking blunders. 2000 rated my arse, and these are not going to be just my opponent's blunders. I'm not making fun of my opponents. My blunders as well. Everyone's getting shit tonight. And these are going to be blunders like this one. Like the blundering the pawn on e5. Okay, 1 or 2 I may argue a bit more complicated, but not much. Not much. Trust me. So, this video is about to open your eyes on what's happening on the 2000 level. On the coveted 2000 level. Let's look at position 1. That I wanted to show you. In this one I'm playing as white, I'm playing my favorite King's Gambit, I'm just a little bit better. Black now plays bishop g7, it's a fine move. I played z5, expanding in the center, also a good move. Asking questions of this knight, sure, and this knight has to move, has got some retreating squares. The best engine move is knight a5, and the position hangs in a balance again. White is a little bit better, although a pawn down, white has a very nice center and has pieces nicely developed. However, it's not what happens. My opponent just plays knight e7. I was surprised to see knight e7, happy, but surprised, because guess what? Knight e7 just blunders a pawn for no reason. The g5 pawn, which is honestly the pillar of almost everything that is happening on the king side for black, it just goes, bang, knight takes g5, thank you very much. Now, doesn't have an extra pawn anymore. Black, this pawn structure is ridiculous. We've got some danger going on along this diagonal now. I won the game soon after. Well, not soon afterwards. Okay, I won it in the next 21 moves. But the point remains the same. Knight e7, completely uncalled for. It's just a one-move blunder. Inexplicable. 2000 level. Position number 2. Let's keep things fair. I gave stick to my opponent. Time to give myself some stick. This time I'm playing as white again. This position is again hangs in a balance. I'm a little bit better. And in this position I play queen b6. I queen b6, and after I play queen b6, I cry because bishop takes h3, which is, okay, not the type of blunder that were the two previous blunders I showed you before, but come on. This is like a puzzle rush 1000 rated puzzle, 1500 rated puzzle, I don't know. But this is like a simple puzzle. You get this position in a puzzle, you see it 9 times out of 10, pretty much no matter who you are. Bishop takes h3, and guess what? I am, best case scenario, down a pawn for nothing. I take this and I lose my knight, of course, because the pawn is distracted and my king side is ruined, and yeah, I cry. Position number 3, another one of my masterpieces, I've got to admit. So this position is roughly equal. Again, see the pattern here, by the way. And don't ask me why. I've got no idea. I lost concentration, I lost my bearings whatsoever, and I just took the knight on c3. And after pawn retakes, I cry. Because pawn attacks bishop, I need to move my bishop somewhere. And now I realize that my bishop doesn't have that many squares. Of course, this isn't an option. This isn't an option. And these two are the only ones I've got. Like d6, e7, but if I go to e7, probably now the rook then attacking it. That's not very nice. I move it to d6. And then pawn taken by the queen for free, really. And the rook is now under attack. I have to kind of address that. So I move the knight to a6. So at least my queen is defending the rook. I lose that pawn in the process as well. Absolutely unforced. No reason whatsoever. Lost 2 pawns for nothing. Position number 4. And I'm playing as black. And this is the one where my opponent kind of screws up a little bit. And this is like the only blunder I can cut a little bit of slack, maybe. Because it's a bit more complicated, a bit more tactical, but still, if we're talking like 21, 2200 levels, I'm not sure if that's totally acceptable, but still. So this position white is winning because, let's face it, white is all over my grill. And the only thing that makes white's position a bit precarious is that this knight on d6 is very strong, but it can be got at if e5 falls. And the way for white to treat it is actually not to treat it, is to play knight g5, and a very good idea, because now if I try and go for material, it's actually mate in 2 for me. Don't forget that after knight g5, this square is sort of under attack a little bit, right? So I have to be very careful. Still, white did not do that. White just literally made the most inoffensive move possible in this position, which is just taking the free pawn on b5. And yeah, from here on out, position being from plus 2.5 for white down to -5 for black in one move. Has to be careful there, because now I just take that knight with the bishop first on f3, like so. And after pawn retakes, I take, and I've got just a tremendous amount of threats. Some material is bound to be lost, and I won the game soon afterwards. Quite a selection now, isn't it? A selection of total crap. And again, I need to remind you, don't think that I went for hours and hours of digging through my archives to find these positions. These 4 positions, these 4 games were literally in my latest 6. And if you guys don't believe me, just in case, I'm going to attach a screenshot right there to see that these are indeed the games that I'm talking about. May the 1st, day of recording, and you can go through my chess.com profile and see that the games match the positions I'm showing you in the video, so there is that. Actually, screw that. Screw the latest 6 games. I've got a delicious bonus for you. As I was going deeper and deeper, like down my archives, I don't really remember how deep down I went. Maybe to my 30, 40, 50 latest games, maybe. I'm not sure. Of course, there were many more blunders like the ones I just showed you in those games, but also, if you thought those blunders were bad enough, I've got 2 more very quick ones for you. This move, incredible move, 2000 level game, by the way. Black to move, black plays queen b7. Blunders queen. There you go. Position number 2, or position number 6, or number 7, whichever way you want to go about it. This position. Start of the game, alright? Almost or barely out of the opening. Move 9 for black. Black to move. Queen a5 check. Great move. Thank you very much. Resign. Again, the same thing. Now, this is not in any way, shape, or form aimed at disrespecting my opponents. I strongly believe, and I am 100% confident, that they are all very good players, and I'm supposed to be half decent myself as well. But what this sample goes to show to everyone, I hope now, everyone who had any thoughts, ideas, illusions about higher chess level, brackets, whatever, that blunders happen at any level. Yes, it's about their scarcity, it's about their severity, but at the end of the day, blunders affect everyone. Simple blunders, one moves, hanging a piece, overlooking a simple combination. Thus, it is the main problem. It's the number one reason everyone loses games. Not just you, me, everyone. And finally, to answer that bloody annoying question of how do I eliminate blunders from my game? How do I stop blundering? And again, the simple and honest answer, you probably can't. You probably can't. Not eliminate them entirely, no. I mean, if I could do that, or if I knew how to do that, I would probably be sitting here with the Grandmaster title icon next to my name on chess.com, but c'est la vie. But that doesn't mean that we cannot make conscious efforts every single game to get the amount of blunders that we make to the minimum. And saying that makes me sick because I only realized how far I am myself from doing that. But anyway, now, to try and get rid of some of the unnecessary blunders, one of the most basic things that you can do, guys, is to follow the rule of 3 questions. And the 3-question rule is this. Let's flip the board, because in this sample position, it was the very first position that I showed you today. White blundered a pawn on e5, right? And let's say it's white to move, and we forget about b4 for a second. I get rid of these arrows as well. And the rule of 3 questions is the following. Before you make your move, you do a visual check. First of all, what you need to do is to ask yourself, question 1, do I have anything hanging? Right now, forget about hanging in one move after some exchanges happen or through some tactics. No, we're focusing on the core basics. At this moment in time, before I make a move, is anything hanging? And as silly as this question sounds, as basic as it sounds, if this question was asked by my opponent here as white, and my opponent just did a basic visual check of this pawn hanging on e5, wouldn't have allowed it. I'm sorry, by the way, if that sounds a bit too harsh on my opponent, because we had a lovely conversation on stream and they really sound like a lovely person, but I'm just being harsh teacher. So yeah, pawn never gets blundered. Like I say, f4, rook e1, knight takes c6, bishop f4, any of that happens. Question 2 is the following. After I make my move with some piece, is the piece that I am going to move hanging, right? So whenever my piece arrives, the most blunt example would be is something like knight b5, right? When we move that knight to b5, is it hanging? And the question is yes. Sorry, the answer is yes. We're just going to take it with the pawn. And again, as much as silly as this blunder looks, trust me, I've seen many of these blunders happen at like 600, 800, up to 1,000 levels, sometimes even. People just placing their pieces in front of the opponent's pawns, they just blunder them. Like, if you remember yourself at the beginning of your chess path, you will know what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking out my ass. So that's question number 2. Again, after I move the piece, will my piece be hanging? And question number 3 is probably going to be more relevant to the position, which is this one. When I move the piece, which was the knight e7 move, we're not talking about that piece anymore. What does that piece change around it? Does it block anything? In this case, it was blocking the defense of the g5 pawn. Does it block anything? Does it unblock anything? Maybe the piece was actually pinned, and now when you shouldn't have moved it, you moved it, then you're losing something, right? Maybe a queen. Maybe the knight was pinned to a queen or something, or a rook. And this is question number 3. When I move the piece, it's not just about the piece, but the environment that the piece is surrounded by. Does that change? Again, if my opponent just thinks a little bit, let's flip the board, and sees that knight e7 just blunders that vital g5 pawn, this blunder never happens. At 2174 raises player, mind you. Now you may say, okay, fine, 3-question rule, okay, I get it. But in a position, for example, like this one, where it's a bit more tactical and a bit less obvious, for example, when you move your queen to b6 and you lose to a tactic, right? Like this one. Yes, it's a bit more complicated, I've got to admit, and not everybody will see that. It will depend on your level, but this is also where the second part comes in. A lot of people spend a lot of time learning openings, learning like middle games, end games, all kinds of stuff, right? And these are important. Like, these are incredibly important. I myself spend a lot of time studying all of that. However, when I hear that someone learned like a 10th opening this year, or someone learned like an incredibly rare endgame, I'm just like, come on, mate, there is a better investment for your time. I literally, when I started playing chess about 4 years ago, I picked up the Alekhine's defense as the main response to e4. I picked up the Alekhine's, and this is literally the only thing I play ever. I never swapped my opening for anything else because I like it, I am comfortable with it, and I don't see the need of diversifying, at least not yet, not at this stage of my career, right? And yeah, if we look back, let's flip the board back. This is where the second part comes in. I think you need to invest a lot of time in your puzzles, really, because puzzles are something that doesn't only train your offensive capabilities, but it passively contributes to your defensive capabilities as well. And this is what people don't think about often. They think about puzzles are just about patterns and tactics and mating and forks and stuff. No, not exactly that. Because essentially what puzzles teach us, they teach us like tricks. Removing the defender, for example. When we do a puzzle that is centered around removing the defender a couple of 100 times, when we take a certain piece away from the defense of another piece, we recognize these patterns not only in attacking but also in defending. If you do enough puzzles, this will become a no-brainer for you. You will be instinctively aware of these things. This is not something that you could probably foster actively too much, but trust me, the more puzzles you do, the higher the likelihood of you just seeing the danger, sensing the danger instantly. And following that comes my next point, which is identifying danger areas. I know it sounds a bit abstract, and it is kind of abstract, but what I'm talking about is, if we look at this position even, we have our queen, after queen to b6, basically just fully committed to this part of the board. It's completely irrelevant, right? We've got these rooks staring at these files. We've got the bishop staring at the opponent's king side. But like in this part of the board, in this part of the board, and I can count the bishop because the bishop is controlling, that's a lot of arrows. The bishop is controlling a lot of squares in this part of the board, so does the queen. Just look at that. This area is like red hot, red hot, red hot. Absolutely, because realistically, we only have the knight defending the king side, more or less. And this is where we identify some really red hot areas that might get in trouble. This is where we pay extra attention to these areas. We literally want to look at every single possibility that we can find for our opponents to attack, for our opponents to cause us trouble. And this is exactly about that. Like, just pay extra bit of attention to the side that is burning, and you'll be fine. And don't forget this example, right? The last example number 4 that I was showing you, where my opponent just took the pawn on b5. Again, danger areas, my friend. This knight is in red hot flaming danger. It's defended by the pawn, it's defended by the rook, but like so many things can happen through discoveries and captures and intermezzos, etc. Forget about that pawn. You need to make sure that your opponent doesn't have any tricks. Just what? This is the red hot area right there. This is the one. See what your opponent can do. I know that in the winning sequence, bishop takes knight, so you could say it's kind of outside the area, and this is kind of contradicting my own point. But at the same time, we look at the danger area, which is the knight, the pawn, etc., and we extrapolate, right? We create these little mind maps that are logical conclusions coming from this danger area. So like, okay, this knight is dependent on the survival of this pawn. At the same time, the survival of this pawn is kind of dependent on the knight on f3. Can anyone disrupt the knight on f3? The bishop can. And we start building these logical chains, and this is how we start thinking. And this is how we avoid blunders. And one more piece of advice I'd like to give to you is get yourself a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet or a piece of paper, although Excel might be more convenient. And after each of your games, classify your blunders. I know it takes time. I know it takes discipline. I know it takes effort. But hey, come on. We're talking about improving our chess. Did you expect anything else? So classify your blunders. Don't be lazy. I don't know. Hung a back rank mate. Hung a pawn. Hung a knight. And these are different sorts of blunders, right? Hung a fork, etc., etc. You can come up with your classifications, and just every time you make this blunder, you just, do +1, right? So that at the end of the day, you'll have this table where it says, like, in the last 50 games, I hung a pawn 14 times, right? And what it does for you is that whenever, after every game, you go to that spreadsheet and you see these numbers go up and 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 up, the blunders that you repeat the most, probably, I don't know, again, hanging your pawn, these numbers are going to go up and up and up. This will, at the back of your mind, you don't even have to do any intentional efforts. At the back of your mind, you will always think about hanging pawns now. Not hanging pawns, rather. Because you will always mentally, when you play, come back to your spreadsheet and you will remember, bloody hell, hanging pawns, 23 times I did in my last 75 games. How about we pay some extra focus and we don't do that this game? And this will massively help. I can assure you of that. And yeah, don't blunder. Don't blunder. I mean, literally, as simple as that. As soon as you stop blundering, you will never lose a game. Your rating will go up infinitely faster. Again, I know this is hard. This is really hard. Like I promised at the beginning of the video, it's easy and it's very hard at the same time. And yeah, Let me know in the comments below, people, if you have any tips for other people how not to blunder. And if you just so happens to find this video useful, please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch. I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays. Find me on chess.com. Join our Discord. All that good stuff. And I'm going to talk to you very soon. My favorite unintentional game it is. I love you all. See ya in the next one.